So for offense, always just make sure, force a habit, just make sure you're looking out here at the window, just checking to see who's over by where. Especially heavy, scout, soldier, anybody going to house is an immediate target. If you see multiple people, assume that one of them is going to stay there, whether that be a spy or the actual person that was originally alive in there. You'll see other people do that as well. They might send a heavy spy over to house where the spy disguises as his own heavy, and the heavy stay house. Not often you see it, but it is something to keep in mind. Once the game starts, you have two options. You can either go over towards the right side to take a mediocre fight, or you could try getting immediate cap time, which is what I prefer you do. You just sit behind cart, Fist of Steel, you don't need to try to do damage, just get it past this bridge before you ever try to do anything else. Once you're in this position, if they're not playing forward, you could try making your way over towards the fence, maybe playing all the way down by river. And the entire idea with river is pretty simple. You don't want to be seen. If you're dropping down, you try to hug this wall as best as you can. And the entire purpose of it is for you to get a nasty angle on whoever's walking towards the bridge or playing towards HUD. That's the entire purpose of it. Once you clear out people, they're all stuck in tunnel. It would be better for you to start playing the head glitch a little bit, if not just getting out of this area entirely and just playing HUD. That's the entire point of playing river. It's just it's an idea to push, but it's not the only way. Like I said, you could play over towards the fence. This is especially good when your team is trying to do a sack and you're just there to support them. All you're really trying to do is just to make sure that as soon as your team bombs in, you're supporting them however you can. And I just realized I have captions on. Fuck. Then I'm also gonna turn down the volume. But yeah. Overall, when you're playing this play, you just need to keep yourself alive, watch out for spies by the tree, just making yourself just as least of a target as you can. If they walk into you, you kind of have to walk away. Better with Fist of Steel than it is for Gru, but you get the idea. If you plan on staying by the cart, always, always, always peek up, peek the bush, peek up, peek the bush, keep on doing what you need to do. This is when you start to rev, shoot all over, and you basically just want to get it up towards this point. Once you're at this point, there's going to be a couple of things that you're going to need to consider. Who's in house, if it's a soldier, if it's a spy, if it's more than two people. Is it telegraphed? Do you know whether or not they're playing inside of house? And if not, where are they going to be standing? And just generally being aware of who's in front of you as well. One of the biggest things that you can watch out for is player aggression and sniper. So as soon as you get it around this part of the bend, Fist of Steel, just try to do what you need to do. If not, just help your team push the cart. That's when you pull out minigun, but yeah, this is a pretty simple first. There's not much that you can do, but sometimes you might find an opportunity for you to do a fast jump and try to get immediate space. The easiest way for you to do that is to jump over on this and trying to jump all the way over. The jump takes a bit of practice, so just be careful when you're trying to do it. You could do it with Gru for consistency, but you can do it without any sort of Gru. Exactly. It feels a little weird, but once you take the space over here, not much you can really do other than just holding and helping your team push the cart, take space. Yeah. As long as you're finding a way to do it consistently, then it's good. I do find that crouching does help, or like crouching before you jump also does help a little bit, but it's a timing thing that people aren't really used to. And besides that, there is an idea of an engineer placing a teleporter over here so you can get a nasty head glitch, but at the same time, nah, I don't really like doing that anymore. The reason being the heavy playing in house always has an advantage, except for when a sniper is playing over here, in which case that heavy's dead. So you end up not playing in that spot anyway. You're kind of redundant. Your use is redundant. So focus mostly on cart, and if your team is pushing forward, they're playing back, that's when you can consider trying to play these aggressive plays. Namely, by the fence over here, in river, or just playing over by tracks. Any questions?
No, sorry.
Alright, cool. So for defense, first is also pretty simple. There's two ways that you can play it. You want to do this as much as possible. In the beginning, you're going to be playing over here. And you don't want to try and, like, sit on the wall. People can see your shadows. In other words, you just have to, like, play it a little bit out. Try not to get sniped. Call where people are peeking from. And if people, like the heavy, is shooting you from over here, it should be an easy kill. Should be, because you should be able to play it smart. If you see that heavy peeking first, let him peek, let him overextend. That's when you can go ahead and make quick work of him. Especially if he's on a teleporter, you can actually be shot, but you also see more of him, so as long as you're close, it's not really that bad. But the biggest problem with this is its longevity. If you're sitting over here, people are going to play counter to that. They're going to send a sniper over by tracks. They're going to send people to bomb over your roof because there's no heavy watching. So, I say do this in the beginning, but as soon as that initial sack is done, that's when you can go back and play this spot by this fence over here. And the idea with this is if they're going to walk in, you see them directly, you're looking at cart, you're able to be aggressive whenever you're possible, and you're able to deny people from bombing over, spies from stabbing your gun, stabbing your combo, or sapping your gun, stabbing your combo, and of course you always have a retreat back over to here. There are ideas for you to possibly play on the roof. One of the best ways for you to do that is to just, every single time, you type CL show pause 1. You line your hold on, could I try doing this jump for a bit? You line your crosshair up towards this point on the, or this rightmost point on the crate. You jump, and you will have to get it down. But once you nail this wall, you go to 91.8 using their CL, or 91.81, whatever's closest, and then you're going to just try to jump. It's also a relatively difficult jump for people to do, so that's why I'm not really teaching it all too much. But if you're able to
what were the numbers?
It was, you want to aim for the sweet spot of 91, or negative 91.8, but sometimes you need some variety. So sometimes, depending on how high you jump, how high you walk up on the wall, you need 9.79, sometimes you need 9.81. The reason why I don't really do it all too much is because of its inconsistency. The command is CL underscore show pause 1.
And where am I lining it up with?
And you're lining it up with this part of the crate right here. You want to be looking at that, and you also want to be facing the back of the wall. That's what I find to be the most consistent way of getting up there, but I'm gonna find a more consistent play to do, because this I grind. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of a little bit weird for you to do the jump up here anyway, because all you're doing is denying people, and as soon as people know you're up there, there's all of your value. Like, you're just there for a second, gone for a second. So I treat it like you're playing inside of window, but that's not the only thing you could do. Like we talked about before, some people can play in house, you could do that as well. Your spy, your soldier, and you guys just go ahead, and you're going to try and play inside of house, not inside of the house directly, but you're playing on top of this. Once the cart is close by, whether you see it from the outline, whether you just know when the bend is about to happen, that's when you can go ahead, go all the way through, just probably run over towards the left side and start fighting cart. The main idea is for you to deny cart as much as possible, delay it for as long as possible, give your team more time for them to hold, and generally making them hold a whole lot more stronger. Albeit with a risk of you possibly dying, or you being out of position for something that you could have stopped. But besides that, sometimes your team does not have any space, the gun's dead, maybe you're down like a sniper or a demo, you have to play back here. You're just using this as a way for you to stay in without having to commit fully. If your team is ready to commit fully, then you absolutely do so, but just be aware of this angle right here, especially when you are playing over by this fence. You don't want to be standing in the open. Snipers love to snipe people in the open, so please be careful of that. And when it comes to dealing with this heavy and river, this is what I mean, just making sure that you're on point with the information that's given to you. You're denying bombs, but you're paying attention to who's dropping down, who's on the cart. if there's a possibility for him to go and try to kill you. Because if you're not paying attention to him, he could just win that gunfight. And even if you are paying attention to him, you could just be very well surprised by how well that spot really does counter playing on the fence. So, it's a bit weird. But yeah, besides that, there's not really much else for first. Most of the time you're going to be playing to commit, most of the time you're going to be playing to leave. So here's the key factors of knowing when to leave. The cart is on this long stretch path. Nobody's able to deny it. Your gun's dead, your demo's dead, or any combination of those three. You guys should just prepare to back up. If your sniper's dead, that's one thing. You still have your demo. But because of that, that sniper is going to be playing all the way over by the cart. He's going to be playing all the way by tracks. As soon as he sets up here, your sniper's dead. You're not going to be able to do anything to stop him. So better to leave then than to stay. Besides that, there are ideas for you to play aggressive. One thing that you got to look out for is who's committing on the cart. What can you guys get done for the cart? If your team tries to go for a play on the cart, you're just playing to support. You're still maintaining these angles, watching out for bombs, watching out for people in river, spies behind, people just sacking into your combo, trying to kill the gun, trying to kill the med, but nothing's really changed. Any questions for first?
It's not possible. Put dispenser here.
Alright, cool. I'll talk about offense for a bit, and I'm gonna talk about it in two chunks. Tunnel and apartments. I'll talk about tunnel first, and this is where you initially want to start playing. You're gonna be sitting by the cart, just watching out for a whole bunch of traps. Traps could be placed all the way up here, in this lamppost, by this little section of the wall, just in a variety of different places. But you're also watching out for spy, and as soon as you get the cart up here, play by this wall. The entire idea is that you're just mobile, you're able to be with your team, you're getting a crit buff, and as soon as your soldier's ready, that's when you and your soldier can start heading over to apartments. That's besides the point, though. What if your team takes an Uber and you decide to stay in? Or your team has Uber ad. If your team has Uber ad, you're either a part of the Uber or you're sitting on the cart, killing the gun as fast as possible. Heavy's main thing is killing that gun, because the demo can't do it normally. Because of how closed in this wall is, he's unable to deal proper damage to the gun until he starts peeking outside of the tunnel. So you're going to be a really, really big factor in helping that gun die. Exactly. So, another thing that you ought to be aware of, spies and people by snipers, spies, and people by side tunnels. People by side tunnels should be called, whether they're playing deep inside of side tunnel, whether they're playing on top of it, whether they're playing close mansion. But one thing should be known is where they're at and if their team is alive, or if their flank is alive. Spy is pretty self-explanatory. He can play any position, but he's especially going to call you out if you're doing something non-meta, if that makes sense. So please be on the lookout for that. Especially in tunnel, you are very likely to get caught out if you're playing alone or with a couple of flank players. And finally, just watching out for sniper, again, pretty self-explanatory, but you don't want to die to him while you're trying to kill the gun. When you're pushing the cart, your main goal is also watching for them to drop down. If they drop down with Uber, not much you could do. Back up, play the corner. Once the Uber's faded, you could try peeking again, especially if the sniper's dead. And your main entire goal is just getting as much cart time outside of tunnel as possible and helping your team win. Are there threats? Absolutely. People in apartments, the heavy, the soldier. Sometimes people dropping down, sometimes people staying up. These are things you're going to have to consider when you're playing in a tunnel. But, I also think that it's important for you to recognize that it's not necessarily the only way of pushing. It is the more modern version of pushing. It still has its place. It's still very consistent. If they don't have Uber, and they're still playing up in apartments, why push at them in the apartments when you could just push the cart and get the objective, you know? You know, of course, maybe they have a sniper, maybe they have a gun, but you guys have a utility, you know? Like, you can use the Uber to get second. That's fine. You still have a chance of catching them out, you still have a chance of pushing third, but at the very least, you're making second that much easier to push. And if you're trying to do it without taking an Uber, it's still possible, but it's just going to be a little bit harder. And if it's evens, you might be good going into tunnel again. You might be good going into apartments. There's a lot of variety that you have when it comes to that. But if you're on disad, playing tunnel is AIDS. Unless you're specifically aiming for the gun to drop them down and then you leave because you're trying to force their Uber. Heavy really does struggle when everything is... Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. He really struggles when the sniper's alive, when people are just walking in front of him. He can't deal with all of it, so... Please be on the lookout for those situations and play with your team. Don't do this alone. That's the main idea for the tunnel push. Of course, there is ideas for you to go side tunnel, which we'll talk about now. This is mostly when your team is playing tunnel. You, your soldier, and scout basically peek side tunnel together in order for you to get a different angle on the gun. And it also enables you to walk out and possibly play over by the right side, maybe playing by the crates. If not, just playing by the fence so you can get back closer towards the cart. The major part that you're going to need to look out for is just scout, soldier above you, and... What do you mean rev more forward? Like jump revving? Not really. I mean, it's a bit weird. You just don't want to get caught, you know? Like, you're jumping into them without you being prepared for what's up there. Just go with the knowledge that you're going to be shooting the gun. If people inside tunnel start shooting you, then you make them a target. And when it comes to that, you need to be doing this quick. If you guys are dealing with the scout and the soldier, that's going to give them more ample time for them to start dealing with you. That sniper's going to start turning around, the demo's going to start walking the bridge, assuming your team can't build up on that pressure. Don't get me wrong, it's an idea, but I personally don't really go for this either way. It'd be much more consistent for me to either push cart or push apartments. With that being said, let's talk about just playing tunnel and going into apartments. Like we talked about beforehand, if you're waiting for your soldier, this is where you stand. You just get a buff. If you're both spawning at the exact same time, you both meet up with your medic, get buffs, and then you guys go all the way up into apartments. And here's the basic idea. You don't rev just yet. Your entire presence is standing around the door waiting for stuff to happen, or getting info for your team. There's two benefits for this. If you're playing up over here, you're not so much staying rev, but your soldier and you are getting calls, you guys are waiting for stuff to happen. That's when you can go ahead. Your team is calling if they're pushing, that's when you and your soldier can start making space over here. Just a couple of things for you to be aware of. Gun can either be placed on this side of the bridge or close to you on the bridge. If it's close to you on the bridge, you guys are going to have to deal with that before you ever make any foot towards apartments. At the same time, they're heavy, they're soldier, they're going to be playing to kill you guys. You guys only have one goal. Kill at least one person. Whether that be the heavy, whether that be the soldier. Because if you and your soldier play your cards right, you guys sack for one of their players, you kill them, and then you're going to make your apartment pushes a whole lot better. However, here's the only thing. They're not playing alone. That combo is going to start coming back up as well. If you know that their combo's playing up in apartments, I don't think there's much use in trying to fight apartments on your own, you know? Like, sure, there is an idea where you guys will sack into them, or you guys will walk from tunnel into them during an Uber exchange, and it can be helped by somebody who's playing in apartments, but your main goal, get info for your team, and just be prepared to walk in. If you see your spy trying to get the gun, no time to hesitate. Try to get in as soon as possible with your soldier. And have roles. Maybe your soldier's shooting the gun. Maybe you're watching the door. Maybe you're shooting the gun and he's watching the door. Maybe you're ignoring the gun altogether because it's in a more passive spot getting sapped. You can start walking forward. There's a variety of ways that you can play it. Not one is always going to be the best answer. However, I do want to say, again, be aware of the gun, be aware of where their combo is sitting, and be aware of where that heavy is sitting as well. Because that other heavy, he's going to be playing like maybe this wall. Maybe he's going to play a little bit back. Maybe he'll play the staircase waiting for you guys to walk in. Maybe he's going to be playing by the windowsill because he doesn't need to do anything. There's a couple of different places for him to stand, and I just want to show you the two most basic counters to this idea. If the heavy is playing back by the staircase, yes, he does watch this angle very well. In fact, he has a nice little peek over here that'll allow him to see the shutter opening. However, this is the most passive way to play, besides sitting in the windowsill. Because at least when you sit in the windowsill, if they walk into you, you have an option of leaving. When they walk into you over here, they're walking into you and there's no escape unless you go like down over here and try walking into them. And I don't think that's any good. So, you could try playing over here to deny them from this space. Or, preferably, if your team is already playing down, you play over here to just watch for them to walk in. The entire idea of this, and why I'm saying that these two spots are a bit more passive, the soldier and the heavy can both jump out of the window in order for them to start dealing with your combo, or with their combo, or to get in from another way. Will this be telegraphed? Depends, but it's also usually unpredictable. That heavy, that soldier, they can time it too. Or they can time it so that when they're dropping down, they know where people are sitting. Like, they drop down from apartments. Alright, cool. My soldier and I are going in. And we start dealing immediate damage to the medic. That heavy, even if he's playing aggressive, still has to start dealing with you. Or your soldier. He can't do both. But at the same time, remember, people are going to be playing aggressive over here. There's going to be guns. There's going to be another heavy playing over here. If you know that heavy's going to be playing in this area, you guys are going to need to be a bit more smarter in your approach. You can't just walk in willy-nilly. You have to be aggressive, of course, but you can't stop at any point in time. If you know that he's playing in this aggressive spot, you and your soldier have to do everything in your power to psych this heavy out. If he's playing back over here, which is the hardest spot for you to kind of deal with, he still allows you the space to drop down, he still allows you the space to walk in, and he has counterplay too. He's not alone in that aspect. But you have to kind of force his hand, if that makes sense. And this is assuming that he's only playing alone, which happens more than not. But it's still something that's you guys are going to have to consider. Like, if he's playing alone, make these plays work, psych him out because you guys are two, he is only one. But if he's playing with the soldier, for example, maybe that soldier's playing a bit more aggressive over here trying to get banner. Maybe the heavy's playing down over here to help his combo. There's a couple of things that you guys can do. But here's the number one thing when it comes to pushes. If they already drop down, chances are you guys are not going to be able to peek this, so you're going to need to fight apartments. As soon as they start walking up, that's what makes the tunnel push a whole lot better. If they sit in apartments and don't do anything to stop you from getting cart time, they're doing nothing, right? They're playing in a more passive spot. You guys are playing directly on the cart, pushing it along. And that's where problems start to arise. So, either preemptively or intentionally, they will drop down and they will try to fight you. But at that same time, if you're playing up in apartments, this is what you're going to be looking for. These are the kind of opportunities that you can see through the window. You have to call with your team. You have to be on the same page as them. You can't do things alone. If you do things alone with you and your soldier, you guys are just going to feed. Alright? Any questions for first offense? Because it is a lot.
Yeah, I was the team I was on like 2 seasons ago had a strat where they would want like a scout to push into apartments with soldier and heavy on second.
That's
I was
fine
wondering if
because
that
the
was any
scout is
good.
the scout's main goal is to try and kill somebody. Whether that be forcing the medic or whether that be killing like the soldier or the heavy. He does a really good job at just running in as soon as possible and just denying anybody from living. So if
So
you're
like
playing,
sorry.
if you're playing with a scout, you can play with that, right? You just have to plan ahead. What fights are you gonna have to fight? Is that gun close? Is the heavy close? If so, where is he? Can you ignore him? Does he have help? Where is the sniper? Because that's also another big factor. Anyway, sorry, what was that again?
Yeah, so like when they drop and you're coming in apps, like what should you do once you come in?
You don't want to sit in this area. If they are all playing in apartments, you want to be in as soon as possible. Right? Like, your team is pushing, they're still up in apartments. You can either wait for them to drop down while they get spammed and possibly die because of your bait, or you could do something about it. You could be productive, shoot the gun, shoot people, start walking forward, doing everything in your power to help your team. Because at this point, you and your soldier are playing as distraction. You guys are playing as a possible counterplay if they start dropping down. Or maybe they're just not dropping down and you guys are just getting a whole bunch of cart time because of what you and your soldier were able to do.
Right, and then if they do drop down, like what should you be doing?
If they do drop down, you're playing in here, recognize that. You gotta be like, oh yeah, I could just kill them. Or, more importantly, what's in front of me? Are they playing aggressive? Is there still a gun? Is there still a heavy? Is there still a sniper? No to all three? Then you can go ahead and figure out what to do next. And remember, you're just pressuring them, but you want to be pressuring them while also minimizing the amount of time you have in this room. If you stay in this room, you die. That's just that. And of course, if you're trying to walk into this room, unfortunately, sometimes you can't take those 1v1s with the heavy. You're going to need to look for another opportunity. That's when you can try and doing silly shit by jumping over here, for example. It's an idea. It's not perfect, but it's an idea, you know? Just trying to psych out whoever you're playing against. At this point, it's just a matter of you playing a much better game. And unfortunately, there's not much for me to add to that aspect, because you have to figure out things in a dynamic way. And that's another thing I want to say. When it comes to pushing on this map, especially second and especially fourth, you have to be playing dynamically. If you keep on doing the exact same thing, they will know how to shut you down. So change it up. Not every single time. If things work, then don't fix it unless it's broken. But always keep them on their toes, you know? Like, you don't need to wait for something to work in your favor to make a play. You have to be proactive, not just reactive. Even though reactivity has its place. And again, you're calming with your demo, you're calming with your spy, you're calming with a whole bunch of different people. Don't feel alone when you can make your situation that much more better for your team. Alright? So, that's the tunnel push. That's the apartments push. I'm gonna start talking about defense. If your combo's playing apartments, you play over here. The idea being, if people are side tons, you're able to hide behind this corner. If people are trying to walk into apartments, you can play over here. And you might be able to get sniped from tunnel, but that's besides the point. Which is also a big threat. If you're trying to shoot people from over here, just be aware that you're going to get sniped. Even if you're playing somewhere over here, you can get sniped from somebody in main. And especially if somebody like a sniper is inside tunnel, you're really going to be looking out for that. That's something that the scout and the soldier are going to try doing as well. You don't need to be inside tunnels all the time. And even on defense, your soldier is going to be playing with your scout more than not. So your main role is when your combo's over here, you play in this area, you can maybe play a little bit aggressive, but it's usually not enticed because if they're pushing tunnel, you just become a target if you're playing over here. If your combo's dropping down to fight them, that's another thing, right? Like, they're going into completely different directions. Their combo's fighting your combo. Their combo might rotate all the way over to apartments. And you're going to need to watch out for that. And like I said before, this is one of the best spots for you to play, just because it allows you to play aggressive when need be. It prevents people from jumping out of the window, or it just does a lot of damage to them when they're dropping down, so you can finish them off quicker. And if you need to, you can back up, there's counterplay to it. Like, there's not one uniform way that you can play on the bridge. Everything has its purpose. But of course, as well, you could try playing a bit more aggressive. You know that they're going to peek apartments. You're there preemptively. Although you're body blocking, or not body blocking, you're hiding parts of your body, you're still able to shoot them all completely. And the other idea is just sitting on the staircase. Again, watching for that shutter to open, and as soon as it opens, you have to be aggressive, or you're going to have to wait for them to be aggressive. You can initiate. You can wait. There are certain timings that you can help, or that you can grasp for yourself and for your team. If you recognize that nobody's playing in tunnel, but you see maybe a sticking flying over, or you see a whole lot of people push apartments, sometimes it's better to hold your ground. Maybe they're low. Maybe they're not walking in completely. If they are, better for you to drop down and live and try to refight it from under. It's an idea. Is it one that always works? No, but you always have counterplay. And again, like we talked about with offense, on defense, you can play it a little bit more flexibly than other maps. The one thing I will say though, apartments kind of becomes the place where you hold. Your soldier is going to be playing above side tunnel with your scout. Your combo will feel incentivized to drop down if they start pushing into tunnel. And if your team is dealing with the apartment players, you're just there waiting for the Uber to fade. You're not playing the staircase, that's your demo, your pyro. You're not playing over here. This spot is a beginner's trap because not only do they see your shadow from this wall, but you're just unprepared for anybody jumping down into your combo or people walking over here until it's too late. There's just a lot that can go wrong if you're playing like that. So please, please, please be aware. Alright? Another thing. When you are playing these passive spots, make sure that you're also spy checking. Check the windows over by mansion. Check the doors. Spy check all around. Check empty areas. Check open areas. Check enclosed areas where you can see that spy possibly going in. And if you need to, just do what you need to do. What are you doing? Why are you following me? No. But yeah, besides that, that's pretty much it for defense. If they're walking into you, like let's just say they have a whole bunch of cart time, you're going to have to be the one to help deny it. That's when you have to start playing aggressive. That's when you're going to have to start looking down. That's when playing this spot or any other spot could be really beneficial because you're not as commitful. But at the same time, you want to commit. You don't want to let them cap the cart for free. So if your combo is alive, but they're fighting the cart, you help them. That's the number one point as to why you're playing up here. It's for the objective, but also to stop people from walking in and getting space. If you lose apartments, the only way where you can fight it is through the door under. Only way. If you try rotating all the way up, you are too slow to make that work. Any questions? Alright, cool. Alright, offense for third. Offense for third is very weird. Very weird in the fact that you can do a whole lot. If your team is steamrolling them, just walk main and help them push the cart. Simple as that. You don't need to do anything fancy. All you need to do is just be aware of the people walking in. If you're getting stuffed, that's one thing, and that's when you can go ahead and try to leave. If not, one other idea that you can do is when they're walking through main, you're peeking all the way through waterfall, dropping down and getting onto silo as quickly as possible. This ends up being the best spot for an offense heavy on this map. Just point blank, period. Besides playing on the... I forgot what it was called. Besides playing by right lobby, or left lobby in 5th. And of course apartments in 2nd. But we'll talk more about waterfall in a bit. I just want to go over the entire idea of how this push kind of works. People are going to be peeking main, people are going to be peeking red room, and it's up to you and your demo to see which way you guys are going to be peeking from. Because you could peek over by silo, you could peek over by red room. There's a couple of different things, and that's why I want you, especially, to make this spot by waterfall the place of operation. This is where you're protecting your sniper from spy, from soldier. Even if they kill them, you can drop down and get the refrag. There's a couple of different options when it comes to pushing from silo as well. You can wait. You could be aggressive as possible. You can even ignore that altogether and push red room if you really wanted to. Of course, every single time that you're trying to push, it works better if you're with your soldier. It works better if you're with somebody. But, importantly, try being a different angle from your demo. Of course, this doesn't always work, right? Like, sometimes your demo and you just have that cohesion. You guys are able to lock down a point. You guys are able to lock down space from the entire enemy team. They're going to be unable to do anything. That's not what always happens. Right? Sometimes your demo wants to peek over by main, or maybe he wants to peek over by windows. Who knows? Right? You have that option of going red room with your soldier. You have that option of committing, not committing, fully committing, and just seeing what you can get away with. Of course, being aware of where everybody's sitting. If you're playing very unaware of where people are sitting, you're just going to end up dying. Or you're going to end up being in a position where you're going to end up dying. This especially happens a lot when you try to walk red room. If your team is pushing main, you guys are walking red room, your entire point is not to walk forward and get all the way behind them. No. It's to kill the heavy over by megaphone, or by this little wall. It's for you to get aggression above where they're sitting. It's to push them away. Right? It's not to do anything other than push them away. That's what you and your soldier are going to be doing. If you're tagging along with your combo, I don't suggest it, but if you were, you're there supporting your demo. You're there locking off choke points for your entire team to hold and push from. But again, don't think about it as you not walking in. I don't want you to walk into their spawn. If they allow you to do that, that's not conductive to your learning. That's just a good play by you and a terrible play by them for letting that happen. Somebody should be calling it. Assume that you will be called when you're walking over here. And if you're not, that's when you can start doing immediate damage to people. Are there any questions for third offense? Because again, I want you to play dynamically. But I also want you to recognize that if you are playing dynamically, you're going to recognize that the only real two places where you can try to push from is red room and windows going over to silo, as well as main. And there are some ideas with it. You know, like, you don't need to exclusively push into upper with your combo or upper with just your soldier. There's ideas for you to just be a nuisance sitting here, preventing them from getting space in 2 of the 3 angles where they can peek. If they start going upper, you and your soldier can call that. You guys can back up, wait for your combo to push, they're committed, you're committed. Now you're playing in, now you're distracting them, and your cart time is getting pushed. And your cart is getting pushed. But again, silo is just the best place to stand. And one other thing I really want you guys to be aware of, make sure that when you're sitting by silo, by waterfall, you're watching out for the soldier playing in any one of these spots. Whether it be above the window by the rafters, or they're playing over by your by your boiler, and you're gonna need to start dealing with them. Right, that just sometimes happens. And you can see them when you're playing up over here. You do not need to commit to him all the time. If you know that he's going to be playing above where you're sitting, you can try to fight him while you're jumping over to silo. Right? You don't need to do anything other than just being aware of where that soldier is. If he tries shooting you, chances are, unless so many people are jumping into you on silo that you just end up dying, you are going to be able to kill that soldier before he's able to kill you. You get the pack, and then you just walk back into silo. This should be a spot where you can hold and play for the entire rest of third. Should be, not always, because sometimes your team needs your help, sometimes you need to drop down. If people are starting to commit onto the cart, you could bait it a little bit, you could drop down to help your team get that cart time. There's a couple of things that you could do. But the most important part just being aware of where people are at, and making plays to prevent them from keeping their space or getting their space. Make sense? Alright, cool. Now it's time to talk about defense, and defense is equally simple. You're either playing over here, waiting for people to walk into red room, dropping down from red room. So your main goal is for you to prevent people from getting anything over here by jumping down from the window. You're watching for people walking in upper. And if you need to, you always have the spawn. You can resup. You can come back. And you can try fighting the cart. Because that's another thing that this spot is really good for. You are aggressive. You are towards the cart. If the cart is being pushed, you are the first line of defense. Or the last. You know? You want to use your health to your advantage. Push in. And as soon as the cart gets to maybe like over here, for example, that's when you can start playing a little bit weird. That's when you can start standing on over here, for example. But of course, this isn't perfect because you can actually get sniped from the window. And that's something I figured out in Grand Finals.
This is bad.
Or maybe you can sit over here, but again, it's closer towards main. People know you're over here. So you don't want to play this spot all the time. You just want to play here to stall as much as possible. And that's not even discrediting the fact that people can just drop down from you, or drop down for you on silo. But that one spot is heavily reactive. You're not going to be able to do a whole bunch unless they start doing something. And even still, there are a couple of spots where you can play that gives you more proactive play, but are also more risky. Before any single fight, you have the option of peeking all the way over here, going over to Megaphone. Of course, the biggest caveat is if anybody's playing in Window or Boiler, you're going to get spammed, you're going to get killed. Especially if a sniper's playing by there. If he's not, this is the freest spot for you to play on. You can always drop down from playing on the wall, to even jumping directly into a red room. The world is your oyster when you do have Megaphone, but I do want to make things... I do want to make you aware of something. You are not going to be able to hide if you're sitting over here. You are not going to be able to hide if a spy is calling you out to have their soldier just spam you. You ignore him or something along those lines. You kill the spy, you still end up getting spammed, so you need to drop down. You know, it's all of that sort of thing. Or maybe even more simpler, that soldier's not spamming you out. You are just getting killed by the sniper if you choose to peek. Or you're getting killed by the spy if you're committing and that sniper misses a shot. But here's another thing that you can try to do. If you know that they're pushing red room, you can wait, you can hide, and that's when you can go ahead, you can start revving, and that's when you can go all the way down over to the wall, or maybe you can already play the wall if your team has space on the point, and if the cart is all the way up over here, in which case you can jump onto the wall from that. That's what I like doing, especially when the cart is just not getting any sort of time on it. Because I'm not only watching the window, I'm watching main. I'm watching red room, and I'm also watching main. And because of that, I have options of maybe walking in, wrapping over behind in apartments over by red room. There's a couple of different things that I can do. Are those plays aggressive? Yes. Would they be better with other people? Absolutely. But you gotta be aware of that. And of course, the actual rotate itself seems a little bit daunting, but you do this before the sniper is set up, and if the sniper knows where you're at, better for you to play over by the corner, by lower, than it would be for you to play over by Megaphone. If you're putting yourself by this corner, you yourself are putting yourself into a sniper sightline. Just keep that in mind when you're playing it. Play that spot like you're not going to be seen. And if people see you, the jig is up. Alright? But this does allow for some valuable play. And you could be a major support for your team. You're able to support them. Right? Treat it as such. You're not the main attraction. The only time you are is when you're defending cart. And even more so, when you're peeking like this. What Megaphone is really good at is denying people from pushing the cart altogether, while also preventing people from jumping onto silo. But again, if that sniper's called window, you don't have many options to peek that person. And if the sniper goes boiler, you have none. You could try rotating, but he still sees you, and he also has the option of going window. And if you're playing all the way down and the heavy gets on silo, it's over. Usually that heavy does not die. When he does die, you could play aggressive, but if he's not dying, you're just not winning. Until he's dealt with. Any questions for third? No?
Yeah.
Oh, what's
Why not like sit back more here and kind of let your team do like most of the like work and just like kind of like spy check the like back line?
How would you spy check if you're trying to avoid the spy? I
Yeah,
mean, you
I guess
could do that, but you're also like inviting the spy to look at you and being like, "Oh, yeah, Heavy's megaphone sniper. Can you deal with that?" "I got it, boss," and then he just shoots you in the face.
Yeah.
Like nothing's stopping them from just running away. Even the people walking through, you kind of have to wait for them to fully commit. You know, like unless you're playing over here, or you're playing on top of the railing. And even still, look at what you're doing when you're playing like this. You're playing aggressive, you're playing up, you're exposing yourself to all three of these sightlines. That's why I'm telling you to hide yourself, not to be seen. And one of the best ways for you to do that, Fist of Steel, or holding out your sandwich, and just waiting for an opportunity. That's when you can then rev in the wall, or something along this lines, and when you're ready to push, that's when you can start peeking like that. Alright?
Mhm.
Any other questions for third? None at all? Alright. There's two ways that you could push forth. You either do it from main, or you either do it from garage. If you're doing it from garage, here's the entire idea. You get past this, you're revving over here, just protecting your sniper from people walking in, from people bombing in. You make the cross, you help your sniper. As soon as your sniper gets set up, maybe another person's playing with him, that's when you can drop down this way and play closer towards the left side. Do you need to be revved in this position? No, but you do need to be looking up for the people like Spy or Scout who might be above you. You need to be looking out for this corner right here. And of course, where the sniper is and where the other heavy is. And the most important thing that you can do to see where they're at is by looking underneath these invisible walls. Once you get over to here, if your team is playing with you, you have the option of going over towards the left side where you're aiming towards the tree, or you can go closer towards the right side where you're aiming closer towards their main, and you're able to get a nasty angle on the people on tree. There's advantages to this. There are also disadvantages. If your team is playing up closer towards this left side, there is no real reason why you should be going towards the right side. Play by the tree, give them that central support, even if it means that you're a bit more exposed to Spy if they choose to stab you. And they will stab you. So here's where you look. You're looking at the tree, nobody's forward, turn around. Maybe they're hiding behind the rocks, maybe they're going right over here by the crates and barrels, just to decloak and try to stab you. Maybe they try going after like a bush, for example. Maybe they try hiding over here. There's a couple of different options that they have to try and deal with you. But none more oppressive than them just decloaking on the tree. And jumping and stabbing you. So please be aware for those. Another thing that you ought to be aware of is the sniper playing by one way. If he's by one way, you don't really have a chance to peek tree unless you're really, really lucky. He knows where you're at, you know where he's at. You have to respect his space. He doesn't have to respect yours. And another thing. This is only if your team is playing up and they have cart time. If they don't have cart time, if your team is not set up, you have to get cart time, or you have to help your team, or wait for them to walk in before you should feel comfortable walking in. One of the best ways to do that is, again, visual information. Is your team in? If so, why are you not in? Of course, look up, look around, check if anybody's by the fence, and try playing these aggressive spots if your team is playing up. If you notice that your team is backing up, that's when you have to start playing a little bit more passive. You can't afford to get caught. Alright? And another thing too. When your team is pushing the cart, and they're going all the way around, don't be static. You can play over here during the beginning, don't get me wrong. But as soon as your team starts getting space in main, play over here, rotate around. The reason being, unless they're all dead, in which case playing the right side is better because you have this head glitch, you'd be much better trying to just avoid any sort of pressure from being built onto you. You become a target for people walking up. Your team is only playing by main to help the cart get pushed. You see the flaw in playing over here, right? You're too far away from your team. You're not getting any support. You have a pack, but you also have a corner where spies can go around. You have this wall. You have this tree still. You have people walking up, especially with a head glitch, so that heavy's just going to beam you down. You're going to make yourself a target by being seen first. That heavy does not need to be seen first. There's just a lot that can go wrong. And I want you to avoid playing that. Alright, if your team has the space, if they're already past and walking over towards here, no reason for you not to play up. Whatever, right? But if they're not set up, if they're pushing the cart, you help them push the cart. You keep this space and you don't let them walk in. And the reason why you play over here is simply because you're preventing them from getting space onto your combo on tracks, who are helping the cart getting pushed on tracks. Any questions for offense? Alright, cool. One thing that you can do is jump from the window in garage. So if you want to be weird, one thing that you can do is just jump in from over here and start playing aggressive. Is this something that you should be taking advantage of all the time? No. This is just a situational thing. Like the jump into garage in the first place. But either way, these are just little tidbits that you can use to help your team win any sort of fight. Right? That's on offense, though. On defense, it's pretty simple as well. Most of the time, you are preventing anybody from getting space from this right side. Or from the left side, depending on where you are playing from. If you're playing to deny them from the left side, you're checking the corner for spy, and you're trying to inch your way forward until you reach that sniper sight line in which you're going to have to back up and continue holding space. If you see that they're playing by the tree, there's an idea for you to peek them over here. There's an idea for you to play against the grain, walking towards him. And of course, you always have the idea of just playing here instead. With the caveat that you can't peek this way, so maybe you need to play around, maybe have a different angle of peeking as well, but the entire idea should be the same. Prevent them from getting space, and if you're forced out, that's when you have to start playing over here, or you guys are going to have to hold your ground and stop them from making space. You call for your demo to play over by the left side. Nobody's in garage shooting you in the face hole. If they are, that's on you. You're going to need to back up. You need to play it a little bit smarter, right? You can't dive for it. You have to just live. You have to respect it. And keep in mind, that sniper can still shoot you from the tree. He sees your feet. He can just figure out where your head is. It's not rocket science. It's just common sense. So please be aware of that. He will not be able to shoot you directly, but indirectly, he still knows where you are. But yeah, most of the time, you're playing for prevention of space. Other times, you're playing to deny a bomb. And this is where this spot, all the way over here, comes into play. And I love this spot so fucking much. Don't wrap all the way around, just make this jump, it's much easier if not. One thing that spies have taught me is that you can actually make the jump over here with the GRU. And it specifically has to be with the GRU or a whip. And it is a tighter corner to jump from than on first. So it does take a little bit of practice, which is why I always consider just doing this if you don't have the GRU. Both options are fine. But the entire idea of this is pretty simple. Soldiers bomb all the way in to get to the spot. Your main goal is protecting people from walking in and all that sort of happy shit. But you're not peeking the sniper. No, you're playing wide. You're helping your team by playing this aggressive angle. Or this, sorry, not aggressive angle, but this passive angle. You prevent people from bombing in. You deal with the spy. And when your team is able to get space, You're not sitting up there. You're dropping down and being a part of that push as well. It's a passive-aggressive play. Passive-aggressive in a way that I've not seen many points accomplish. So you're doing this mostly to deny any sort of Ubers from getting any sort of advantage on you. Maybe you need to back up. That's cool because you could back up into here. That soldier bombs you. You deal with him. They're playing aggressive. You could start dealing with them inch by inch. And that's when you can help your team start getting space. If not, maybe they don't take an Uber exchange. Maybe they just go for a sack. You're dealing with a bomb. They're done. You can play aggressive now that their demo's dead. It's those little things that really make or break a hold. And I think that this is one of the most consistent ways for you to counterplay their spy, their soldier, or anybody else who's trying to get behind. The only issue is that you are not doing any direct damage to people in main. You are not preventing people from going onto the tree. So if your team is playing aggressive, you're playing aggressive unless there's an Uber call. And even still, this is one of the few points where you can actually be a part of the Uber. You just don't want to be caught out. Like, if your team has disad, and you're playing over by the fence, not much that you could do other than run away and slowly walk back in, head glitching as much as you can, and trying to walk all the way over to the fence before the heavy spots you or the heavy's not even there. So, very often, if they tried taking an Uber, you're playing with your demo, you're taking that Uber as well, or you're running away. And the idea is simple. Before the Uber ends, you take that space before that heavy does. If that heavy takes that space before you do, shit out of luck. I'm sorry, but you're not going to really be able to do anything. Timing is key. Alright? And for a forward hold, not much to say. You could sit in the corner a little bit while walking forward towards their main. If not, you're just playing directly into their main by this choke. The entire idea being you're preventing them from getting space. They're all forced to rotate all the way over to this sniper spot by garage. And as soon as they do that, that's when they start pressuring you out. That's when you're going to have to, instead of running away, you could still play aggressive. Right? There's still room for error, but there's also room for innovation. Maybe not jumping on the rocks, but you see what I mean, right? Like, just because they have this space doesn't mean that you can't walk and take that space away from them anyway. But of course, if they have a sniper over there, now it's a threat. Now you're going to have to play a bit more aggressive. Maybe you're playing all the way over here. Maybe you're playing over by the tree. Just really defensive stuff. Really passive, but dynamic. Are there any questions with that? With fourth in general? Anyone else? Okay, cool. So now we're going to talk about fifth offense, and this is where it's going to get a little bit dicey. Sorry, I'm just still a little bit tired. I'm just looking at my phone while stretching. But here's what you can do. You can walk all the way through to open the shutter for your team. Just be aware of the people walking towards the left side of lobby. You help them, or you walk over towards this side. The entire idea should be if you're helping your combo push all the way up here, you're controlling the window, you're controlling the left side, you're preventing anybody from walking in, you're allowing yourself the opportunity to snipe the gun, get picks all the way in this corner. But here's the problem. Unless your team is playing all the way over here, there's not much that you can do to help yourself. This seems like a very selfish play to do. But this doesn't even really accomplish that. You're far away from your team. You're still doing pebble damage unless people are sitting directly by the window. And is the threat of a heavy being there prominent? Yes, absolutely. But only for so long. If they know that you're playing over here, they can react to it, they can spam you, they can just have a sniper peek you, they can have a wrangled gun. They can have people walking over by the right side of lobby now to start dealing with you, or the left side of lobby to start dealing with you. So I don't want you to do this alone. But I also don't want you to do this with your combo. What do you do this with? You do it with your soldier. And like everything else that we've talked about so far, Make sure you guys are on the same page. If your soldier wants to walk the left side with you, walk the left side with him. This is especially good during a post-Uber. Like, if they don't know that you're on the left side, you could just walk into them. You could deal with the gun, or the gun's already dealt with, and you could just start being a nuisance, killing the people who are defending cart. At the same time, maybe your soldier wants to play with your scout by paint, or bucket, or whatever it's called. If they do that, now you're going to need to play a bit more minded. You're going to need to play a bit more objective. Maybe that's when you go all the way over here, help with people shooting the cart, shooting for the heavy, just doing everything in your power to help your team push this cart all the way through. And even still, maybe your team just goes for an immediate cart play. There's ideas. You could sit all the way over here trying to get a head glitch, or even just getting information for your team. You could fully commit. You could back up. You can play on the cart itself, especially when there's no gun or sniper. As soon as they start dropping down, you're preventing them from getting space onto that cart. You're levitating them, but you're the only one doing that besides your pyro. So I do want you to be aware of one thing in particular. When they have a sniper up, and your cart is all the way over here, you have to keep it tapped. If you are not touching the cart, you lose. I've seen a game so horrendous that the cart went from over here all the way back to this part of Maine. It was, again, right over here, all the way to the back over there, because people did not cap the cart, or tap the cart. Will you need to do this? Sometimes. Will it be optimal? Probably not. But somebody needs to do it. But most importantly, unless you're getting direct space, playing on this staircase right over here, or unless you're playing over by the left side of lobby, or you, for whatever reason, you're playing by the window, or you just get space in main, you're not going to be able to get a lot of space. You're helping your combo push the cart. You're not killing everyone. Right? You're being a force to be reckoned with, but at the same time, if people know where you're at, you only have so many options. That's why I feel like offense heavy on 5th is really, really volatile, I think is a good way to put it. The reason being is just the inability to do whatever you want to do. Contrast that with the heavy playing on defense. The heavy playing on defense has one goal: prevent people from capping the cart. What are his secondary goals? Preventing the window from being used by the other team. Make sure that you're watching out for people who are walking over by the right side of lobby, not the left side of lobby. But more importantly than that, changing your positions to deal with the cart players however they may walk at you. And there are 3 spots where you can sit at that I think are the only ways for you to really deny cart. You could deny cart like this, but this is much better left for your sniper or your demo. The first one is on this spotlight. And playing towards the right side in general. The entire idea is pretty simple. If they're by the window, you're by the window. If not, you could still play by the spotlight, but if they start walking through main, you're helping your demo start dealing with them. You're closer to them, you're able to do more damage. If they start walking into you, this is where you shine. However, do not commit for somebody unless your team is all dropping down. Or unless it's the last person alive. Another spot is pretty simple. It's over by the left sign, or left light post. The entire idea with this is also pretty simple. You deny cart, and you do it from an angle where people are not expecting you from. Here's the caveat. You don't get much space peeking into them. If they start shooting you, chances are you're not going to be able to shoot them before they... You're not going to be able to shoot them as fast as they are able to shoot you. That's just a fact of the matter. Like, they can see you much more than you can see them. And another thing, this extends to this entire wall. That's why I'm not saying play over here, because you could be shot from the bottom of this wall by other people, including the heavy. And you don't even need to be, like, fully up. You could be all the way back. It's terrible. I do not want you to use this other than a transition point. If you're going from the right to the left, you use this narrow gapway to cross. Not to jump over them, to cross to get over to the other side. And of course, we have this spot by the staircase. The entire idea with this is simply denying cart, getting the most space looking into them, denying paint, and of course being able to play in a variety of different ways. Usually, instead of sitting over here all the time, it'd be better for you to sit over here with a possible transition over to this left light post. The reason being, if they take an Uber exchange and they're walking through like this, you are hiding behind them, you are directly behind them, and you're not going to be able to do damage to them, so you end up being a target if they get you spotted. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So another thing that you're going to have to worry about, where their Ubers are going to be taken from. Are they going to be going towards right lobby, where you can't see it all too well? And if so, how do you play around that? Do you get closer towards the combo that might take an Uber? Or you go over towards the left side to stop that cart from being pushed? One of these answers will help you win that game.
Yes!
Because chances are, maybe that combo doesn't see you. Maybe you help the cart by just denying people sitting on it. Even if you're not killing them, you're just denying the cart, the Uber's over, you get a bow, and boom, you're back to your spot, and then, hey, maybe the cart is like all the way down over here. But it's not at the edge, it's like right over there. Cool, might be time for me to play up here. If not, I'm still playing the same area. If not, I'm playing a different area with the same idea. This should be the loop. Ingrain it in your mind. Wherever they take an Uber from, you want to be on the opposite angle. If they take an Uber from over here, one thing that you can do is just be aware of where this Uber is coming from, how they're going to take it. Maybe it might be better for you to play over by the staircase, so you can watch out for window and lobby while also being ready to drop down onto cart. And this is smart by them. They are forcing themselves in a position where you have to make a decision. Will you live? Yes. But are you supposed to live when the cart is getting capped and you have 2 minutes left to defend? No. It is not good. So, maybe you can try playing over here right behind them. Of course, you become a target, but you also have this route if you need to escape. You force their attention away from your combo, so that's wasted ammo. And even still, you get a bow, you're good to go. Unless that heavy and soldier immediately walk at you from the right side of lobby. And especially when you're playing like this, for example. When you're trying to stop the cart, when you notice that they're walking in, you can make that split second decision to run away. But of course, if the longer the distance you have towards the cart, the more space they're gonna get. So please be aware. And one last thing before we finish this off. One last thing. Actually, two last things. If they send a heavy and soldier right side, only thing that you can do is either fight them or fight the cart, because usually both are happening at the exact same time. If it's telegraphed that they're going to be doing something like that, have your soldiers spam them out. Have people put traps there. Have a pyro deny them. But the number one important thing, if you're sitting over here, you become a target. So, the best place for you to stand if they're trying to walk towards right lobby is over here. And if they go cart, you can fight cart. They walk through right lobby. You're calling that. You're helping people run away. You're able to get this nasty little body glitch or head glitch, depending on how you see it. And from there, well, you're just able to deny people from walking in. And even more so than that, if your team has the cart inches away, you are the first line of defense against holding it. You're going to either have your minigun revved or you're going to have your fist of steel out, depending on how dire it is. If it's 20 seconds left on the clock, maybe run minigun. There's no chance that you're going to live anyway. So might as well try to get a kill, especially one that will help them cap. Like a heavy, like a scout. And of course, you can always, 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 always just pull out the Fist of Steel and try to keep yourself alive for as long as possible. One other thing that you can do, if your team is good at healing you,
Very well.
you can eat behind the cart to soak up a whole bunch of damage, and then you're able to immediately fight them when they start walking into you. But either way, your team is supporting you, not the other way around. You are directly on the objective. Their main goal is to keep you alive. If they make it a mission to walk and help you, that's where things change. You're behind the cart. They don't have Uber. You guys do. You use that Uber to walk all the way in. Your medic kills their medic. People are dying left and right. So who sits on the cart once that's done? The ultimate answer to that is just engineer. If the engineer isn't placing his gun close towards the cart, he's trolling. So, you don't need to sit up by the cart anymore. Now you can just play a more standard version of 4th defense. Any questions?
No.
Alright, sweet.
Thoughts on Brass Beast?
Beginner strat. Even in competitive, it does more damage. You might think that it's good because you're hiding in positions, but mobility really matters. Hiding yourself really matters, and the Brass Beast doesn't help in that regard. My favorite weapon to use on this map especially is Tommy. Mostly because there's so many angles for a heavy to peek from. Some of them are telegraphed, in which case, sure, you might be better off using the minigun. But if people aren't expecting you, it's going to make your plays a whole lot better. Any other questions? Alright, sweet. Well, I thank you guys for popping into the review. That was probably our most successful one so far. Seemed like a lot of people joined, so I'm looking forward to doing more reviews, but that was pretty much it for this one.